discussion and possible action on the following. A signed permit request for Tally's Tap. The petitioner is Jessica Tallinger. Owner of the property is Robert and Janet Tallinger. Basically going to be on the same posts that support the current sign. Same size. Just different logos, correct? Jamie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think you covered it. It's using the existing sign, they're just doing a reface. They're not moving the location or anything, so. Top part, I believe, is 12 by 4, and the bottom part is 12 by 2. And this is a rendering of it. If you drove by it today, I think the top part is down already. Looks like they're waiting for the new sign waiting to get their permit and then waiting for the new sign to come. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. Any questions?
I move to approve.
Second?
Second.
Chairman Marek,
Yes.
Supervisor Bansky,
Yes.
Supervisor Wolf,
Yes.
Supervisor Laska,
Yes.
Supervisor Fischer.
Yes.
Motion approved.
And 5B, fermented malt beverage and liquor license for Tally's Tap and Eatery. Same address. And this would be conditioned on the surrender of the current license, correct?
Which we already have in hand, so it's already been, yeah, it's conditioned upon this tonight, so that it was gonna be approved. So we have that in hand, so
I move to approve.
Second?
Second.
Chairman Marek,
Yes.
Supervisor Bansky,
Yes.
Supervisor Wolf,
Yes.
Supervisor Laska,
Yes.
Supervisor Fischer.
Yes.
Motion approved.
And 5C, update on the status of the Town of Waukesha Town Hall on-site sewage disposal system. Mike?
Last Friday or Monday, we were going to have our engineer out here, and they were gonna start mapping it out and go from there. We're still waiting on the third Thursday in August that goes in front of the City of Waukesha Utility Commission. And that's my update.
Question, if I might have, Supervisor Lansky, have you, I know issue that I raised, I believe, at the last meeting about at least beginning the consideration of the sizing of the water sewer, or the water service lateral for combined fire protection, domestic water service. Have you done anything with that?
I certainly did. I passed the word, and that's gonna be part of the proposal also.
To whom did you pass the word, please? Is that to Rupert Melfi or?
Rupert, yeah, our town engineer.
Thank you. Thank you. On to D, refuse and recycling contract. Request for information update. Jamie had made some calls and sent out some emails, and we didn't get a real clear response. Nobody really knew what we were after or what we were asking for. Since that time, we have received some information from the county, and the county is asking that municipalities extend their current contracts until such time as they implement their new recycling program, which is single stream. Basically what that is that all of the recyclables go into one container rather than multiple containers. They, for some reason, think that that's an easier way to do it. I don't quite understand it, but they think that they get greater volume. With that in mind, I contacted the advanced disposal representatives. Mr. Johnson, who's the manager for municipal markets, is here in the audience this evening. And what they have offered to us, and stop me anytime that I am misstate what you've presented to us, is a decrease in the cost per household, assuming that we move forward with a 3-year extension, and they would waive the CPI index increase each year. And with that, to us would come one service reduction, and that service reduction would be during the months of December, February, and March, that the recycling here on site is done once a month rather than twice a month. And not in January. January would remain twice a month in order to recycle the Christmas trees that come about. And yard waste disposal during the months of December, February, and March can't be very great. The other thing that Advanced has also advised me of is that their future contracts, if we were gonna take this out to bid, they would have a fuel surcharge in here, as does every other provider. And they do not have a fuel surcharge in this contract, and would not be placing one on us in the future either for the next 3 years. Did I catch everything correctly?
Yeah, that's.
If you have anything else to add, come on up.
My name's Jason Johnson.
Come on up, Jason.
Sure. Good evening. My name's Jason Johnson with Advanced Disposal. First off, thanks for the continued business that we've had over the years. We would like to extend the contract. We feel that the services that we're providing in discussions with the chairman and looking at comments, we feel that we've been doing a good job. Complaints are low, so we're happy about that. Hopefully you're all happy with the services. It did break down on the last page, just some cost comparisons of what the savings would equal out to. If you took advantage of a 5-year extension, we would make the pricing effective immediately. So you get some additional savings there. And then the 3-year contract, we would make the new price effective January 1st. So you get, obviously, the savings moving forward. In terms of the service changes, the chairman hit it right on the head. In talking with our attendant that's here, the participation through the winter for yard waste is, I don't even say it was slim, it's basically none. So to have our staff sitting here, it's not really worth it, the financials, so we're able to pass those savings on. And for January, we had recommended the first 2 Saturdays. That's up to the board, whatever days you want to do it. Just made more sense closer to right after the holidays that people would want to get rid of Christmas trees, things like that. I did include some comparative pricing of customers and townships. When you look at the rates of what your new rate would be depending on the option you take, it really puts you right in the ballpark, a little bit less than what other residents are paying, just with proximity and the size of the communities and how long it takes us. The town of Genesee, that's not a current customer of ours. Their rate is $15.30. They do not have any type of yard waste collection function like the town here does. And the recycling there is every other week. You get weekly recycling, so their service, it's safe to say if they had more recycling collection going on, they would be paying more. And when that contract comes up, we'll obviously be trying to secure that work. The county has put out a recommendation to extend for a year. We feel that there's opportunities to extend longer by, just through the year. That's fine, the option is still there, but we'd like to go out a little bit further in looking at the carts that you currently have. When this was bid out 6 years ago, we were the low bidder, that's how we were earned your business. Pricing doesn't go down, so it's pretty safe, and you can see it in what I broke down of the surrounding communities. You're really right in the neighborhood of what the residents of Waukesha County communities that are neighboring you are paying. So that's really the financial component. We wouldn't be looking at changing any other schools.
Mr. Johnson, two questions. Do you have any idea what the tonnage for yard waste is in December, February, March? When you say it's not even slim, it's non-existent, is it?
Yeah, very little. I did not bring, I don't have those tonnages.
Okay. And then the next question, I may have misspoke or misunderstood. My understanding was that if we enter into an additional 3-year contract with you, that you would forego the CPI increases in years 2 and 3. Was I inaccurate
Yeah,
with that?
that's not accurate. There would still be the CPI adjustment,
Okay.
same as the current contract. If you did the 5-year extension, we would waive one of the CPI adjustments. So you'd, in effect, have your rate would be the same from, if you did the 5-year 8/1 until December 31st, 2015, so almost 2 years at the same rate. With the tax levy limits and budgeting, that's been a pretty popular option that our municipalities have extended and taken that because of the new budgeting laws and the levy limits.
At this late hour, is there any chance that we could ask you to offer that non-CPI increase in years 2 and 3 if we were to extend into a 3-year contract? Since we didn't get that 50% reduction that we were hoping for?
50%? Yeah, we wouldn't be able to waive the CPI because, as you mentioned, and from our meetings, we don't have a fuel surcharge on there. All other proposals do, all the communities around do, so we always get reminded from the ones that are paying it, how come we're the lucky ones that pay it? You don't have that, so, we need to be cognizant of what fuel does, and it is a basic CPI adjustment, which this year I think CPI is running about 2%, so it's fairly modest, but it's something that's necessary for us in our contract.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I might, I have at least one question, Mr. Johnson, and the question of Attorney De La Mora. My question, Mr. Johnson, with you, and I think we maybe kind of covered it, but looking at the proposal that you offered here, am I correct, on page 6, option 1 is reference to a 1-year extension based on existing contract terms and conditions, and then if I go to that spreadsheet you put on the back of it, that currently is $16.15 per household per unit, is that correct? So you're saying option 1 would be to extend that for calendar year 2014 at that rate, is that correct?
Option 1, we would have a CPI adjustment. Right now, the contract that you have allows basically unlimited 1-year extensions, so you really wouldn't have to do anything if you don't give us the notice. We would just
So it's
continue collecting.
$6.15 plus
16,
CPI.
15 plus whatever CPI would be per the current contract.
Thank you. Then my question, Attorney De La Mora, for you would be, I believe at the last meeting on the 25th of July, we discussed this conceptually, and I would bring you back to the conversation I had with you about whether the town, from a legal perspective, and I'm not interested in a business perspective, but from a legal perspective, whether the town of Waukesha could extend this contract with advanced disposal without going out to competitive bid. And what I would like to ask, unless there's objection from anybody from the board, and I don't think it needs a formal proposal, but with this information in hand, and whatever resource you might need to look at the existing agreement, looking at our town ordinances, state statutes, whatever you need to resource, can you come up at our next board meeting, which is what, 2 weeks from today, with a written opinion as to whether or not we could accept any or none or all of these options that have been proposed by Mr. Johnson on page 6 of his proposal. Can you do that for us? And I think you told me, running on memory, bad, but 1.5 hours to 2 hours worth of time. Is that correct? Of legal services to do that?
Your memory is as sharp as ever.
Good. That's not saying much, but
And
is that deal still in place?
of course, in fact, I welcome that opportunity because quite frankly, not having reviewed the original contract,
Okay,
and only seeing these terms on the proposal, I would be asking Mr. Johnson to basically submit a new contract that spells out what he had orally represented here, so that something concrete can come before the board.
so you're talking about
Sure.
3 contracts then? Mr.
Well,
Johnson's
yeah,
gonna make 3 contracts for us,
That's
right?
how I was, my comment was generally how we do this, and obviously it's to the board's decision. Generally, with something that's as standard as this, in the sense that we're not really changing anything, in the contract, it's, I think, about a 7-page document, and there is a section that has rate adjustments. It would really be a simple 1-page addendum based on the decision that the board would take. If they did the 1-year option, as I mentioned, there's really nothing that, the contract would just continue for another year. There wouldn't be any notification from us. There wouldn't be any notification from the town. It has, in essence, an evergreen clause on it. If you took the 3 or 5, pending the decision of the board, then we would draft that contract under the proposed changes, and then we would submit that, and legal generally goes through it with their red pen and either accepts or makes recommendations of what they would want to change. If you wanted all 3, or all, again, I don't think it'd be necessary for the first option, but if you really wanted 2 versions of a contract, it's not that
Mr.
hard.
Johnson, I appreciate what you're saying, but at the same time, this is even a 1-year renewal, it's an over $600,000 commitment by this community, and this is a contract that I've never really reviewed, so.
Oh, I understand.
I would think that under the circumstances, that would be something that you would have in your word processor, and you could probably generate.
Sure, the town has the contract as well.
Yeah, but, so that would be my response.
Mr. Fisher, a quick question. Is your question surrounding reviewing the contract for protection of the town, or is your question, can we do an extension of 1, 3, or 5 years without RF, without going out for bid?
I may not fully understand your question, because I think the answer is yes, even though you gave me 2 things to choose from. I'm not trying to be cute, but I mean, to cut to the chase, and we can come back and forth. I don't see any purpose in this board wasting a bunch of time about talking about what ifs or that type of thing if we're not going to be able to do it. And you were not here, Mr. Johnson, 2 weeks ago, so you get a pass on that. Attorney DeLamore and I had that discussion, and again, I'm not interested in anybody handicapping the business advantages or disadvantages of that. We can get to that for another day and figure that out. I want to know, can the town of Waukesha, and you mentioned something a little bit unbeknownst to me, the contract that is currently in place has been in place for 6 years. What was the original duration of that contract? Do you know? And if you don't guess.
To the best of my recollection, it was a 5-year contract, and it actually did extend one. This year was
So
one of the. It's already renewed once,
Yes.
similar to this.
whatever that is,
extension.
but I want Attorney DeLamore in the hour and a half or 2 hours of time that he told us he can unsnarl this mess, I wanted him to get deep into that.
Yeah, I'm
2
not
weeks,
sure
2
the-
weeks from now,
Yeah.
I want to see a written report from him that basically says, to the town, you can or cannot accept option 1, you can or cannot accept option 2, you can or cannot accept option 3, or you need to go to competitive bid. And I don't want us to be in the position that time marches on, that he comes and reports to us in 2 weeks that he doesn't have sufficient information from you to make that analysis. So, not trying to make this complicated. Chairman Marek, maybe I didn't answer your question, but I want to cut to the chase here. Is there any question about what I'm trying to accomplish?
No, and I think it's pretty clear. So would you then be able to, Mr. Johnson, create those 3 contracts and get them to Jamie, and Jamie can forward them to council?
Sure.
All right.
I can.
It'll just be more recycling for you.
Yeah. More electronic. Yeah, so So you'd like a contract that each, I'll have our legal people just put it together and get it to you. I mean, we can go from the 56-page ones to the 6-page to a 1-page addendum, which I'm sure the original contract in 2008 was approved. I'm not sure if you were the town attorney at the time, but whoever the town attorney was, I'm 99.9% sure it was,
It would have been.
you know, like you stated, it's a high-dollar contract. I'm sure it's your biggest line item.
It is our biggest
Yeah.
line item. We don't spend any more money for anything other than what we spend to advance disposal. So this merits our attention.
You bet. Oh, I
It's
understand.
worthy of spending an hour and a half or 2 hours of Attorney De La Moore's time to review it. And I want to get to the bottom of the pile on this so we can move on.
Very good.
Thank you.
I would move that we table this to a date certain of the next meeting. All in-
Thank you.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Very good.
Close your ears. Moving on to 5E, Waukesha County Sheriff's Contract. We do have some new pricing for the upcoming year. Did you look at the pricing that we got from the sheriff? Do you have it handy that we'd be able to get at it? As I recall, it was a reduction in price. It was very, very modest, but something to the effect of, was it $4,000 or $5,000?
One moment, I'm gonna print it for everybody. Joe, it's coming to you.
Along with that, a couple of the things that I talked with our sheriff's representative about were changing some of the ordinances. They're going to give us a list of suggested ordinance changes that would give us the opportunity to collect more revenue. Things that currently go to the state would stay here in the town and increase the revenue that we garner from the sheriff. And since there's only one sheriff available to us, we're not going out for RFPs on this one.
I don't know if you know, John, but I was told we paid separate for the car that's not in the 250 or around 250.
It'll be on this.
Oh,
215 and 216 were the numbers, I believe, last year and this year. It's a reduction of about $1,300. Clerk Salentine, can you tell us what our current income, if you would, from ordinances, fines and so forth that we have received so far from via the Sheriff's Department?
The court fines collected so far this year is $10,664.
Is that through the end of July
That would,
or June?
I've gotta look that up.
I-
It would be June.
I believe that was through June, so if you extrapolate that out, we should be on track to receive around $20,000 for the year, and that's an offset to the $216,000 or $215,000 for the estimated cost next year. The reason they're estimated is because it varies greatly on the overtime or the mileage that would be put on the vehicle. Yes?
Jamie, might you have available there what it costs us to be part of that courts, municipal courts over in North Prairie there, or Eagle, or North Prairie? I know it's on the agenda later, but
It would be what we would.
our annual membership to achieve that 10,000 or 20,000 that we get for violators.
Joint municipal court would be $100.
And then, along those lines too, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Attorney De La Mora goes to those proceedings, so, and virtually there's costs to us at that point too. So the offset, you have to weigh all the variables, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
The total cost for joint municipal court, is that for the year?
For
or is that-
2014.
The estimate for 2014 appears to be $4,840. Does that answer your question?
It's part of the picture.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman, and I don't expect you or anybody else to be answered here, but we're looking at this letter of July 2nd, 2013 from Ms. Lindsay Johnson, business manager for the Sheriff's Department. And I see that's basically an estimated contract cost for 2014. And the question I've got, the letter references in the opening paragraph that 2013 is the last year of the 5-year patrol contract. Take that at face value that that's true. So the question I think that I would like to know at some point in time, are they simply proposing a 1-year extension with these estimated costs for a contract for a longer duration of time? I don't necessarily expect anybody's got that answer, but I'd be interested in knowing what that's all about.
This is for a 1-year extension, and I don't know that we would be able to negotiate lower costs moving forward if we were to move into a 3 or 5 year. If that's something that the board would like to do, then we could certainly get into some negotiations with the Sheriff's Department.
Okay, but I guess flipping that around the other way, they are not at this point in time requesting or demanding another 5-year contract or 3-year contract. They're willing to go another year at these estimated or proposed contract costs. Is that the essence of it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you know the vehicle cost, is that gas, insurance? That can't be the purchase of a vehicle.
No, it's the operational cost of the vehicle that's designated.
No, the one below that.
That's, right, that's the That's the costs
To
associated.
run the vehicle.
Associated with the vehicle that's assigned to the town that has the town of Waukesha label on it.
Okay, Jamie, do you know when we first contracted with them, did we have to purchase that car, or what happens when the mileage gets so high? Are we gonna have to buy a new car? Do you know?
I
Do you
wasn't here
remember?
for
Oh, you
the
weren't-
contract, because
do you
it was 5
remember?
years, I've only been.
Or
here-
Joe, do you remember?
They weren't here.
They weren't here either, nobody was here then.
My understanding, Larry, is that that is not a vehicle that we purchase. The sheriff's department buys all the vehicles, and we are, for all practical purposes, renting or leasing that vehicle from them.
And that would be the
Those op-
vehicle cost?
Yeah,
The,
so
the
those,
lease or renting it?
those operational costs would include repairs and the depreciation on it for mileage,
Right.
upgrades to computers or radio equipment and so forth.
Let me just add one thing, I don't know this, but I would even find it doubtful that, we don't have the gentleman here from the sheriff's department now, but I'd even find it doubtful that the car that he's driving tonight is the one that was here 5 years ago, and I just don't believe that.
I know that they come in monthly to check it, there's a gentleman that comes in and they do their little checks and take it out, whatever they do.
Because it's parked here, that's our car, right?
When you say,
no.
when you say our car, that
It's
that the town
only used in the
owns-
town?
It's used in the town now. There are instances when the deputy that's assigned to the town will leave the
Well,
town
yeah.
in case of emergencies and so forth.
Mutual aid or,
Yes.
right.
So would you like to pursue a single year extension or moving forward into a multiple year contract?
I guess I would be concerned or interested in a multi-year contract if it's gonna save us some money. Apparently, they went out 5 years ago. Will they do that? If there's a substantial savings in that respect, we can weigh that and make a proper decision.
I agree with Supervisor Laskam, and it would be nice to have that information to consider.
Okay. So then would the board approve of me getting into contract negotiations to bring back to the board at our next meeting? And then I would move that we table this to a date certain of our next meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?